Hello everybody, this is Fernando for the latest Gangsters and Mafia video. I thought I would mix another one in here while I'm waiting for your suggestions on the mysteries and oddities. So I picked this guy, this one also being the trend with regards to finding someone that is lesser obscure but still pretty fascinating and interesting to talk about. It has to do also with a character that became a government witness. So this is the first time I'm talking about someone here related to that special program. Lots of good info to share with regards to him. There's also the idea that he remains a mystery with regards to his location, all due again to being a government witness. And it has to do with this guy who you're looking at here, who instantly makes a big impression. It has to do with a guy that goes by the name of Peter Chiodo, but much like anything else in the world of the mafia, and they have their nicknames there, because of his large status, he went by the name of Big Pete. So I'm going to go ahead and talk about that here and then refer to him as that way. Also, other times he's known as Fat Pete too. So either Big Pete or Fat Pete, I guess it depends on whoever is reporting or talking to him. So who was this guy? Who was Big Pete Peter Chiodo? Well, information about him before he became a mafia member is still kind of rare. Not much info out there related to that. But what we do know is that eventually he joined the mafia, became a made man, a capo in this crime family, the Lucchese crime family, who is, of course, or was, of course, one of the largest crime families within the United States. In fact, this happened apparently in 1987. This was held in an apartment that was located over a funeral home in Queens. So right then, starting during 1987, that became his, I guess, official entry, the most official way possible in that world. And then cut to a couple of years later, he was placed in charge as a capo of something involving local 580, some kind of union of some sort, where he would receive payoffs from certain members and no doubt siphon them over to the Lucchese bosses that were there. Also, he was involved in one other thing too. So he was a capo, so he was someone that was still, let's say, had his handiwork within some of the more nefarious stuff. For example, there was something involving the New York City Housing Authority. There was a union leader there by the name of John Morrissey, who apparently, I guess they were involved in some kind of bad activities, and so he was eventually going to be sentenced. And to make sure that he didn't testify against the mafia, they hired this guy, in this case, Big Pete, Peter Chiodo, to take him out. So he lured this guy, John Morrissey, over somewhere in New Jersey and then murdered him there. So Big Pete definitely had his hands in everything, especially in some of the deadly items. He wasn't just in this case an innocent party to anything mafia related. Nope, he was definitely delved in there when it came to a lot of their nefarious activities. Cut to a couple of years later after that, 1991, and then that's when things ultimately changed to him. It became a huge turning point in his life because somewhere along that way he was caught, arrested, and then charged with one of the most hardest, biggest type of I guess violations you can get within any case, and that is the Rico Act. It's that type of act that encompasses so many things that basically when you're charged with it, you're either going to get a life sentence or get a sentence that's so many years long it might as well be a life sentence. And even with, in this case, him having an attorney, him trying to fight it, it seems like there was so much solid evidence against him with regards to what he was doing. He decided to do something that is unheard of within the mafia world. In that case, he decided to plead guilty in order to receive a lightened sentence. Apparently this is a no-no, a big no-no in the mafia world, because while at that point he was not necessarily turning tailcoat, the mafia did see that he was looking for more favorable things. So it was leading, from his perspective, it was getting a smaller sentence, but from their perspective, it was leading in their minds that, hey, if this guy can do that, imagine him turning into a witness later on, because he's already doing something something along these lines. So, in this case, the Lucchese bosses, some of the higher ups, the guy by the name of Vittorio Muso and another guy, Anthony Casso, who you're looking at pictures of here, they decided that nope, they don't want to risk it. They decided to actually kill this guy, this Big Pete Chiodo, and they ordered his assassination. This was even to the fact that some of them were even good members, good friends, in other words. For example, Anthony Casso had been good friends with Big Pete Chiodo for a long time. But again, in the world of the mafia, friendship is one day and then enemies is another day. I mean, you can get murdered just like that. So, May 8th, 1991, apparently Big Pete was out at some gas station working on a car of some sort, and when that happened, he did not realize it, but there was two shooters that ambushed him right then and there. They shot him 12 times, if you could believe that, 12 total times, in the arms, in the legs, and in the torso. 12 times, and he still survived the attack. Like, this is straight out of the Godfather movie. If you've seen that famous scene where the Godfather is shot at multiple times, close range, just right then and there, but he still ended up surviving. It seemed like this happened to Big Pete as well. He was taken somewhere, I guess no doubt a hospital, and he survived, and the doctors credited his huge frame because at that point he was 500 pounds. That's amazing, like 500 pounds, and how he's still alive, who knows, but 500 pounds, they credited that large obesity with saving his life. No doubt some of that fat within him either stopped the bullets from reaching critical points or altered them, or who knows. But whatever the angel was, it absolutely saved his life. So right after that, though, that's when this guy Big Pete decided he wanted to turn into a government witness because of the betrayal that he felt from his mafia members. It's a bit of an irony too, because when you think about it, those bosses, the Vittorio Muso and Anthony Casso, they were wanting to stop him, thinking that he was going to eventually stop him from turning tailcoat, but their own very activities forced him to turn into a government witness. So a bit of an irony associated with that there. As soon as that happened, though, he had to make sure that some of his family members were going to be into the federal witness protection program, because immediately they were threatened. In the mafia world, touching family members is a big no-no, especially if they're innocents, like they're not involved in the mafia world, just their family member is, but not them. But as soon as you have that person turn tailcoat, then yes, it does seem like they all of a sudden become fair game. His wife was even threatened. They had told him under no certain terms that if he went into any kind of prosecution, or let's say any kind of evidence where he was presenting evidence for the prosecution, that they would murder her. So clearly some of his family members went into that protection program. Still though, some of the members were killed. His uncle, for example, either his uncle decided not to be in that program or was at the wrong place at the wrong time, but his uncle was murdered by the family members. And then his sister, while she was driving somewhere, she was ambushed as well by some of the mafia members there, some masked men of some sort. She was shot 3 times too, shot in the arm, shot in the back, shot in the neck as well, but she still survived. So whoever the angel was, the one that was hovering over Big Pete at the time of his assassination attempt, they were there as well with regards to his sister. Still, this did not deter him. He went up to the case, to the court, and in a wheelchair no less, he testified about what had happened, about his life, about whatever the government was needing when it came to presenting evidence and charging others in the mafia and the mafia family and getting them found guilty. In fact, he was even asked why he had this big change, like what happened to him, and he said he had undergone a quote-unquote transformation because he went from being a violent criminal to someone that he considered a man with a conscience. And they asked him, like, what happened, like how did that occur, and he simply stated, well, I was shot 12 times. And that's pretty blunt. I mean, that's the whole idea. When he had that life-changing event at his assassination attempt, then that pretty much changed his course to what he was going to do later on. Eventually, a bunch of members of the mafia family were found guilty based on his testimony and based on his evidence. Another bit of irony: Vittorio Muso and Anthony Castro, the very same members who tried to kill him, were found guilty and sentenced to long sentences in prison because of it. So again, a bit of irony there. And him, Big Pete Chiodo, he was put into the program permanently, that government witness program permanently. He was found guilty of racketeering charges from the Rico charges, but because of his testimony, he was basically given no time. And so his current whereabouts are unknown. Wherever he is today, somewhere in America, maybe it could be Florida, California, North Dakota, doesn't matter, wherever he's at. He's living his life still as someone within the witness protection program. So one other interesting thing about him, because of his very large status, during that time period that he was testifying in several court cases, the government had to fly him in a very special plane, and this is because of his morbid obesity. He just couldn't travel within traditional planes like Southwest or Delta or any of the other flights that you and I use. And so that was also interesting to note. But still, that did make sure that he was very protected throughout the entire case as well. So, but that's it. That's all the information associated with Big Pete, or Fat Pete as others like to report him, Peter Chiodo. So if anyone has any more info, please post those comments below. But another interesting entry into a more obscure character in the mafia world. So alright everybody, thanks again as always. Take care. Bye.